All right, this hour we will take your phone calls as we talk about palmistry. And one big question remains, and that'll be next on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back. Vernon Mahabal with us, and we will take your phone calls in just a second. Vernon, if you saw death reading somebody's palm, would you tell them?
George, that is a question that I'm asked very frequently, and I will say this at the outset, that any astrologer or psychic or tarot reader or palmist who tells a person how long they're going to live, you should immediately just walk away. It's the most unprofessional thing to tell a person how long that they're supposed to live. It's not done by credible practitioners such as myself to tell a person how long they're going to live. Having said that, if you see, for instance, that a person has health problems or that they can avoid any type of infirmities or difficulties health-wise, I'm the first person to tell a person, okay, you should use this, you should try that. But professionals in my business, so to speak, will never tell a person how long they're going to live. And when a psychic or an astrologer, not a tarot reader does that, it's more of an aspect of I have control over you. They're trying to play God. Our lives are not just pre-planned like that. We have free will. Otherwise, God would have made us like a robot. In other words, God would have tried to do what the reptilians are trying to make us into. They're robots. But we're godly. We have God quality. We have God conscious qualities. And we have a natural free will. And we have a unique destiny. So I'm just cautioning that anyone who tries to gets a reading from a person and they say, oh, you're going to die at a certain time, just walk away. They're not professionals. It's an irresponsible thing to tell a person how long they're going to live.
All right, very good. Let's take some calls here for you. Ready?
George, can I say something?
Yeah. No, you can't say a word.
I really appreciate your service to our country. You're a beacon of hope for people. You're a solace. I listen to you almost every night, and I know a lot of people who listen to the show, and I so much appreciate your efforts, and people like me can get on the air and speak our truth.
Well, you're
so
very
thank
welcome.
You so much from the bottom of my heart.
We're going to keep doing it for as long as we can, Vernon. Let's go to Mike in Hendersonville, North Carolina, to get things started here. Michael, you're up with us.
Hey, how you doing, George? I hadn't talked to you in a long time.
Well, I'm glad you got through.
Yes, sir. I was wanting to ask your guest about when he's talking about closing the hand naturally to get the index finger and the ring finger. Well, I tried that about 10 or 15 different times, and it seems like every single time that I close
Here's the way to do it. Put your hand on a glass or a table and keep your fingers straight and your palm straight, and then turn the palm side to your face, and then look at both. Keep your fingers very straight. Don't close your hand. Just put it on a table or a glass, and then turn it over, palm side up, and look at the two fingers, keeping your fingers straight. And you'll tell immediately which finger is longer. If it's the index finger, you want to be a boss. You want to be in control of your life. You don't want people telling you what to do. If the ring finger is longer, self-expression is more important than just financial gain. You want to be satisfied during a career that deals with art. Or
you won't believe, Vernon, how many emails I've gotten from people who say, my ring finger's longer than my index finger. George, how did you not know this? And, I mean, I always thought the index finger was always normally longer. That's bizarre.
I would say, it's going to be 50-50, George. That's what I see. It's 50-50.
I can't wait to go look at people's hands now.
I will also say to you, if the ring finger towers, if you will, over the index finger. In other words, if it almost rivals the middle finger, then you've got a person on your hands who's going to absolutely take to artistry or creativity. These are the people in our societies who are entertainers, actors, that type of thing. And on the other hand, if you have a index finger which also towers over the length of the ring finger and it almost rivals the middle finger, then you've got let's say a Donald Trump on your hand, or a Lee Iacocca, someone that wants to be a boss, someone that's in charge of others, that type of thing.
Can you tell with babies right away?
Yes, you can. It's very hard because you need a good magnifying glass, but everything about a person is on a little child's hand as soon as they're born. In fact, all of our lines, all of our fingerprints, all of the important aspects are formed in the mother's womb at 5 months. And so I like to look at kids' hands. I look at kids' hands all the time. It's just hard to keep kids' hands open. That's the problem.
They're always wiggling.
So when they become 4, then the mom or the dad can say, okay, Johnny, keep your hands open for the palmist. But, and what I used to do is when my son was asleep, I just used to open up his hand and read it. And that's the only way I could have done it. But everything, the entire astrological chart, your entire life purpose is written on that child's hand. You will be able to see if that child will become an artisan or an architect or a carpenter. Everything's on the hand.
You have looked at these, back to the economy before we go back to more calls, these big box stores that are all-encompassing. Some of those chains are starting to close a little bit at a time. I would say Sears being one of them. What's going on there? Is it the Internet that's crushing them?
Yeah, and it's also a bit of astrological karma, too. In other words, the desire in our society in that respect, in other words, the new generations that are coming up, they are going to be acclimated to a different type of thing. It's not like we had in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. We had generations of people who wanted just to build up America the way we've seen it. Now we have generations of kids that work with technology. Where I see it going is that, yes, the next 2 or 3 years, George, will be a little tough. I do see that, but we're going to hang on. And where I see the direction going, instead of these big box stores, we are going to go more to, let's say, the mom and pop stores.
Back to where it started.
Exactly. It's almost like I have a large collection of handprints, and what I see in the 1910s, the 1920s, that's what I see. And people will even go to different communities to pick up goods that they can't get in the other community. We'll see artisan goods. People will start making artisan goods in the world of clothes, foods, herbologies, that type of stuff. We're going to see a rise of America in a very different way. We're going to have strong communities, George. We're not going to have communities where people don't know their next door neighbor. We're going to have communities and states that are going to be proud of their communities and proud of their families and proud of what they can contribute to the next community who doesn't have what they have. America's going to change, and, it can't go on this way. It's not that just these demonic entities are in charge of it, and they're going to, there's a bigger force beyond them, and they've had their day. Of course, they've gotten into every segment of our society, granted, but their time is up, and they know it. And the strength of America comes from the individual. The strength of America comes through the person of self-determination, and we may even see we may even see America in a sense split into two Americas. the people that want to become more ambitious or stay ambitious, and in a sense a little bit more of the poverty conscious, the more cripple-minded conscious, the more third world mentality. We're going to see two Americas. I mean, at a certain point they will work together, and America after 2032, 33, 34 will become a united country again. But the interesting thing is where I see America building up is in Middle America again. It's almost impossible to see this, I understand now, but I do see Middle America building up. This is what I see astrologically. Many times if I see something in a person's hand, I may say, okay, 5 years from now, you're going to be doing this type of work. And it may be the furthest thing from their mind to think, well, how can I get into that? I don't understand. But, you know, as David Bowie's song changes, time may change me, but I can't change time. That will happen in our country. And the places that will be very prosperous for us will be Middle America. So many people will mass migrate to the center of our country. Even Chicago will build up, believe it or not. Illinois, those areas, the Middle America. Also the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Washington State, Oregon, the entire Pacific Northwest will be a very prosperous place. California, the Southwest will not be so prosperous. It will not. I see a very depressed area there. So I see that the same with the Southeast. It won't do too well. But this is what I see in the next, let's say, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Two Americas. One will be the America that of the patriot, the ambitious person, the self-determination, and then in the areas that I just told you, it'll be the other construct. But having said that, after we get through this Rahu period, we as a nation will again come together. But we have to go through this difficult time in order to throw this monkey off our back, which is these demonic people that are controlling us. And they control us through fear. And just like when I do readings for people, George, I always like to say, hey, this is what will make you a strong person. This is your niche. You know, even the Hopi Indians say, create your own career, and that's where your freedom lies. So that's my modus operandi in palmistry. So this is where I see our country going. We're going to become more, again, individualistic, and we're going to throw off that fear of being controlled. But, you know, the interesting thing, George, is that that control has been done under our noses. So as I said, in Rahu is that time of everything's being exposed. As the government is looking down our neck, we are also going to do the same.
Okay, let's go to Sonny in Bloomington, Illinois. Sonny, welcome to the show.
Hey,
go ahead.
How you doing?
Good, Sonny.
How you doing? Great show. Yeah, what I got to say, I don't know if you can do a reading, you know, without seeing my palm or anything, but everything that you're saying is kind of falling right in line with the direction my life is going in right now. I don't know if you ever heard of float centers, but it's sensory deprivation tanks. They're filled with 10 inches of water, 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt, and it's completely lightless and soundless. And you're in there and you float for 90 minutes, and you kind of get in touch with your own reality of who you are. It helps you figure out, you know, what direction you want to follow in your life. It gets you in touch more with your spiritual side. It helps you reach the theta point that Buddhist monks practice for years and years to try to achieve, but we can do that in a matter of minutes in these float tanks. I think that this is the start of exactly what you're saying, some kind of new spiritual enlightenment, some kind of revolution that's happening all around the country. It's really kind of starting in the Northwest, just like you said. I'm in Illinois, in central Illinois, and I'm going to open one of these float centers here in my town. I'm trying to raise the funds for it right now, but it's going to happen. The whole impetus of this idea that I got from floating, which I started doing in April of 2013, is to help fund social justice groups, to start a populist movement, to hold our government accountable. And I guess
somebody's
with what you're saying, I mean, I feel like this is a sign that I'm being told this is the direction you're supposed to go into, Sonny. And I guess what kind of reading you can do, I don't know if you can do something over the phone or whatever, but I just want to know if this is going to be successful. I mean, I truly believe in my heart of hearts that we're going to win. And we're going to bring this country back to where it should be. And you're right. Maybe these next few years will be individualism, entrepreneurs trying to change our economy, take our economy back to the local level. And a lot of people will be left out, hence the Southwest, California, the whole South. But after that period is through, then we will bring everybody up, and it will be like a ship rising, all of us rising together.
What do you think of that, Vernon?
George, what this gentleman is saying is right on target. I agree with everything he has said. In other words, every day we see people, especially me, I see people who are into natural health, organic foods. I see people who are into artisan stuff, personal and spiritual growth, sound therapies, vegetarian food, even psychic work. This is where our country is heading. We are done, in a sense, let's say, astrologically, with that being the country of the manufacturing base. We are moving on to being a country of the metaphysical, spiritual, personal growth area, and we will one day export that to the world. Like I said before, the BRIC countries, Russia, China, India, these countries want to be where we were in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. But our nation has gone through that. It's not just that the demons are taking it away from us. They are, but they're also controlled by karma. They're also controlled by destiny. They themselves are the playthings of that. But as America, we have a greater destiny. Like I said before, we are now in the age of Aquarius. We are now, as they say in the Vedic view, the age of Chaitanya, and this is the golden age. And for those who can see it. And so we see everywhere what this gentleman was talking about. Everywhere we turn, we're seeing people who are into these natural therapies, et cetera, et cetera. The problem is, George, why hasn't it happened yet? Because it's not the time astrologically, but it is becoming the time, and the planets will impel that, and just like the generations of, let's say, the last generation, the 90s generation, all of those people who were, let's say, part of what I call the Apple generation, in a sense, they had a desire from a previous life to work in the world of, let's say, technology, and so they were born at that time where they could get into technology. If they were born in the 40s, they would have been very just wayward people who wouldn't have known what to do. But people are born generationally to get into whatever the society has a trend towards. So in the same way, you can drive into any supermarket and you see a yoga center, a New Age center, a massage center, a New Age a crystal center. We're going to see this more and more and more. And even though it seems like that this is a very far thing, if you look at it astrologically, as I'm looking at everybody's hands, this is our direction. There's a reason, George, why our manufacturing base is leaving our country. It's not our destiny anymore. And at a certain point, we're going to export that to the world. Just like India 5,000 years ago, and even after that, exported their spirituality to the world. Well, they're done with that. They don't want to be that type of country anymore. Just like in my field, so many Westerners are going to India to learn the Vedic astrology. It's not the Indians who are exporting that. It's the Westerners who are going to India.
All right, Vernon, we'll be back in a moment. And welcome back with your calls. And Vernon Mahabal with us, of course, his work, The Secret Code on Your Hands. Let's go to Jeff in San Bernardino, California, to get us going this segment. Hey, Jeff, go ahead.
Hi, Vernon. This is highly synchronistic that just earlier tonight, I heard the first thing I've ever heard about this proportion between the ring finger and the index finger.
Yeah, me too.
They agreed on this other video I was watching that it is a 50-50 ratio of people who have a longer ring finger or longer index finger, but they attribute it to the anatomy of a male versus female, and they say that males have a longer ring finger, and that this is one of the indicators that Michelle Obama is actually a male.
Off you go. Simple as that. Vernon, some people are writing me saying that their fingers are the same size. What does that mean?
If they are, they're a balanced person. In other words, they can be a musician in a band, but at the same time be the band leader. Someone like Steve Harris, the bass player in Iron Maiden. He's the band leader, but he's also a creative person. So that's what it means. They want a little bit of control. They want a little bit of influence over their environment, but at the same time, they want a creative outlet. And it is rare. It is rare. So if you do have that, it is. I would say that person is balanced in that way. But there's always going to be, let's say, a nano, if you will, a finger being longer. But like I say, if you look at the hand of an Elton John or a Madonna, those they have a towering ring finger. And if you look at the hand of someone who's a captain of industry, a person who is in charge of other people, you're going to see a very strong index finger.
You see an interesting trend for young people, 12-year-olds to 21-year-olds. What's going on there?
Oh, that's a very interesting aspect of palmistry for me. A lot of people bring over their kids, or they send their handprints of young people, and I'm very interested in what's going on with them. It's interesting because in the new age they always say, okay, well, they're going to be a little bit more intuitive, and they're indigo kids or that type of stuff. I don't really see that so much. I'm not discounting that, but what I am saying is that they will be a lot more into when they hit their 30s. Let's say someone who's 15, 16, when they hit their 30s, they'll be a lot more into personal growth. They'll be a lot more into, for instance, so many of the kids of the, let's say 15, 16, 17, 18, when I grew up eating Wonder Bread and Yoo-Hoos,
Yeah.
And they're all about knowing about GMOs and chemtrails. It's not a rare thing for me to meet 19-year-olds who know so much about, let's say, the New World Order and the Illuminati. When I was growing up, just to say that there was like the whole Oliver North scandal in the 80s, that was a big deal. You were like a conspiracy theorist. Well, these new generations, let's say from 12 to 21, they will be more empathetic. They will be more sensitive, and they will be very much aware of what's going on around them. They will be extremely socially aware. I constantly see that. They're much more aware of their actions towards others or in a societal way than, let's say, previous generations, certainly my generation, the 80s. They will be ambitious in different ways than, let's say, the 50s, 60s, 70s. One thing that is lacking in them is organizational skills. What I do see, for instance, in the 60s generation, I see the same thing replicated in their generation. In other words, I hope no one gets mad at me on the air, but in a sense, the 60s generation, in a sense, lacked planning and organizing and structuring. They're going to have that problem too. But on the good news, that they might not be as organized, but they'll be more organized in a societal way, and they'll be much more sensitive and empathetic towards what's going around them. But they are individualistic, but from a more societal aspect. They'll look at, okay, how are my actions going to affect other people's actions? That type of thing.
Okay, next up we go to Rick in Florida on the wild card line. Rick, go ahead, sir.
Hey, good morning, George, Mr. Vernon. I heart Coast to Coast. But my question is, I have some evidence of corruption in the legal system in this area, and I was wondering if palmistry could give me some guidance or at least some information as to maybe the end results, because I have an overwhelming desire to bring this to light to somebody that could do something about it, but I don't know which direction to go, and could reading or palmistry help me with this?
That's a tough call, Vernon. I'm not sure it'll work that way.
Well, I would have to look at his own hand, through a personal meeting, or if he was to send me his handprints, and that's how I do all of my readings. People can send me photo scans of their hands, or they can see me in person. So what he's talking about, that would be a more individual thing. I would like to say something about the whole aspect of corruption. For instance, this is where I see America going. For instance, in California, where I live, we have, in my view, one of the most corrupt governments possible. But we have businesses that are keeping the state afloat, and have been for many, many, many years. And we'll continue to see that. And we'll continue to see that as people are much more aware of what's going on in their government, they won't just be hoodwinked anymore. People will take a very strong interest in their local and provincial and state governments. So in a sense, we're going to see, I'm not trying to be Pollyanna about it, but we will see less corruption simply because people will be so much more vigilant and aware. Rahu is an observational planet. It's a planet that exposes things, and we're seeing that now, George. So I'm not saying corruption is going to go away. This is the material world, but it's not going to be on the level that we'll see it, because it'll be like, to use that word, a grassroots movement. We will see people being held accountable. So much so that this is what I was saying before. Communities, states will become stronger, and they'll demand that the people that they elect will be stronger. For instance, I even see the waning away. I mean, of course, this is going to take a few years, but the waning away of centralized police forces. I see in people's hands that in, let's say, a span of 9, 10, 11 years, we're going to have practically every community in this country police its own community. We're going to have people who live in the community police the community. We're not going to have, the centralized police force. And
that depends.
Of course,
doesn't that depend on money too, though?
Well, as our communities become stronger and our families become stronger, our community, the financial interest within that community will become stronger. Right now, we've got weak communities because money is not being made in the community, and even if it is, it's not staying in the community. It's going out to a Walmart or some offshore banker or something. So I actually see that, and a lot of people ask me, George, will the barter system come into play? I actually don't. I actually think that we'll continue to use money because that's what we've always been using, but it could happen that in, let's say, 10, 12 years, that each community will have its own standard of money, its own money, and, even if the dollar is not doing well in the world, people will still use the system of currency that's currently in place, but it will come from a more localized communal type of a situation. So our economy is going to go through, we're going to go through a little bit of the same, George, for the next 2-3 years, but I see that people are going to just say, okay, hell with it. I'm not working at the Walmart anymore. I'm going to start my own business. And the good news is that the planets, all these, 12 planets that are around us will impel that to happen. And the system has to break down, and the closure of the demonic possessed America has to fall apart, so that the age of Aquarius, so that the goodness will come through again. The strong America will come.
All right, let's go to Paul in Maui, in, of course, Hawaii. Hey, Paul, go ahead, sir.
Hello, George. Hello, Vernon. Thank you for the show.
Sure.
I have 3 questions. I'll just ask them, and then I'll listen on the air. My first question is, how does one know that a palmist that you want to go to is authentic or real? That's
Great
my first
question. Let me just answer that.
Let's go.
okay.
Well, let's go one at a time. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the first thing is ask other people about them, and also have they written books? Do they teach? If there's an astrologer or a palmist who knows what they're doing, they would usually they've got a few books out. They're known for teaching, and they're not just sitting in like some store with a crystal ball saying psychic. I would say for every 10,000 psychics or tarot readers, there's maybe one who's credible, and even then, their psychic skills are intermittent. When you use astrology or palmistry, you're not just working with intuition. You've got a checks and balances system because the planets are saying absolutely definite things on the hand or the chart, and then you have a very tangible grid to work with. So ask around, be discriminative, ask people, or just search the internet and see what have they done, what have they added to the science, what books have they read, are they respected in their field.
Next one.
Okay. My second question is, you've referred to demonic entities, and I'm wondering, what are these demonic entities? Because in my mind, I believe that we are the demons. We create the good or evil in this world. So what are the demonic entities you're referring to? Fyodor Dostoevsky said that there's a war between God and the devil, and the battlefield is the heart of man. So we all have our struggles, our difficulties, and we all have our good stuff. And there's so much in this world and in this country that I see on a daily basis within people's hands, that so much goodness is going on. But the media, the government-controlled media, never reports the good news. There's so much good stuff happening. Americans are great people. They have hearts, and this is what the entities that are controlling. At every level of the government and the academia and the medical association, what they don't have is heart. They're human beings loosely, but they don't have the natural empathy that the 95% of the population does. I believe that there's 5% of the population that is actually demonic, and 95% are completely innocent, but they've been influenced, if you will, by them. And the entities that are running this world really are extremely intelligent. They're very extremely logical and analytical, and that's why they're so ruthless. They don't want control. They already have control. What they like is strife. What they like to see is people oppressed, because that makes them happy, if you will. What they don't have is a natural empathy or human warmth that most of us do have, and therefore they're actually envious of us. The reason they want to control us and make us suffer is because we have a heart and they don't, and they're envious of the fact that we have a heart. But the demons they're just like a reptile. They do things very, very slow and calculating. But the 95% of the population is ruled by we're more emotional. So we have a natural desire to help and serve other people. So as we become more God conscious, as we become more moral, as we become strong as individuals, see, this is why they want people on welfare. This is why they want to bring they want us to be a third world country, because they can control us. They can control a population that is weak. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make us weak by taking away our family, by destroying the family, destroying our morals, destroying our sensitivity.
They're doing a good job doing that, aren't they?
Absolutely, they are absolutely in control. But you know what, George? Their time is up, and they know it. And eventually, they're going to start fighting with each other because they don't want just control. These entities, they actually, as I said before, they have no love, no care. They don't have. They're going to start as they continue with this. They're going to start fighting with themselves. They may even kill each other. That's not to say that everything will be hunky-dory and rosy. We're still going to have to, there's always going to, this is the material world, so there'll always be, good and evil. But the age of Aquarius will see a population say, "I'm done with this. I'm sick of this," and this is where Americans are going. And the Bundy BLM situation was pivotal in the beginning of what we are going to see in this country. We're going to see people saying, "I've had enough. I'm standing up to this government. I'm standing up for my rights. I'm standing up for morals. I'm going to become a strong person." And we're going to see the eventual end. And also, George, planetarily, their time is up too.
That's
They
true.
had their time.
Hey, Vernon, the clock is getting us, but I do want you to get your website out, if you would, and how people can get a hold of you if they want to.
PalmistryInstitute.com. And I can give out my phone number.
Do you want to?
310-500-9463. So palmistryinstitute.com is where I can be found.
310-500-9463.
Yes, palmistryinstitute.com.
Boy, you're going to get a lot of phone calls.
I'm used to it, George.
All right, Vernon, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, George. I very much appreciate it. Thank you for your work. I very much appreciate you.
And all of you on hold, I am so sorry we didn't get to the rest of you. Maybe we'll have Vernon back a little sooner than 2 years, which is the last time he was on. So stand pat there. We've got a great week of shows for you, so I'm glad you're with us. And if you ever need to email me, just george@coasttocoastam.com. For Dan Galante, Tom Danheiser, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lonehood, Sean Ladesseur, Stephanie Smith, Chris Burrows, George Knapp, and Art Bell, I'm George Norrie, somewhere out there on Coast to Coast AM. We'll see you on our next edition. Until then, be safe, everyone.